Hey there, RosterWatch Nation. It's your friendly neighborhood Trashman, and this is the Garbage Grab on behalf of RosterWatch.com. Today, I'm going to be talking about value picks in this year's draft, particularly in the wide receiver position. I'm going to go over all the positions eventually. I'm going to cover only receivers in this episode. The next one, it'll be running backs, quarterbacks, and tight end. It's just that there's so much value to be had at the wide receiver position. I thought I would dedicate an entire episode of this just to the wide receivers. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. We first come to Juju Smith-Schuster, who has an ADP of 13. He's the 13th receiver, actually. And he only played 12 games last season. Didn't have a great year. One, he was injured, and also he didn't have Big Ben. If you go back to 2018, he was number 9 overall in receivers and fantasy points, over 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns. And, some people say, well, he's got, more competition with Deontay Johnson, Claypool, Chase Claypool, the new rookie there, James Washington. But Juju was number 9 when Antonio Brown was on the team. So I'm not too worried about other competition as long as he is healthy and as long as Big Ben is healthy. I think you're going to get value even at wide receiver 13. After him, we have Cooper Kupp, who is wide receiver 16 right now and actually performed at number 4 for wide receivers overall last season. The loss of Brandon Cooks may hinder or help his cause. We don't know for sure yet. Probably help. It was actually Tyler Higbee's comeuppance that really affected Kupp's performance last year when it did kind of peter. I wouldn't say peter out, but it definitely dropped over the last part of the season due to Higbee starting to perform really well. And Higbee's still there, and he'll continue to perform well, it looks like. But without Cooks there, I think Kupp, if not stays the same, maybe does even a little bit better. And a little better than number 4 overall is pretty good, especially if you're getting him at 16 as the 16th receiver. And while we're talking about the draft and value to be had in the draft, I have to say that you need to go out and download the 2020 RosterWatch Ultimate Draft Cheat Sheet, which is available now at RosterWatch.com. The revolutionary cheat sheet that changed fantasy football forever is back, only at RosterWatch.com. The RosterWatch Ultimate Draft Cheat Sheet, all you have to do is follow the 3 simple rules. That's it. 3 rules. It couldn't be easier. An expert quality fantasy football draft is guaranteed. The RosterWatch Ultimate Draft Cheat Sheet, only at RosterWatch.com. All right, so we talked about Juju. We talked about Cooper. Now I get to Devante Parker, who's always been a favorite of mine just because he's kind of a malcontent. He's kind of somebody who people count out every year. But last year, actually finished 6th overall for receivers. He comes in with an ADP, of the 19th receiver drafted right now. And I don't think too much is going to change for Park. Ryan Fitzpatrick should be under center most of the year, if not Tua Tagovailoa, who, if he does come, might actually be better than Fitzpatrick. We don't know. But it does look like Fitzpatrick is going to start the year, and that bodes well for Parker and his 19th receiver position. If you're getting that kind of upside out of him, he's well worth the pick there. After him, we have Keenan Allen, who's the 23rd wide receiver overall right now and performed as the 11th receiver overall in fantasy last year. Keenan Allen does have a new quarterback in Tyrod Taylor, but I can't say that Phillip Rivers was exemplary in his performance last season. If you go back to when Tyrod Taylor was a starter again, it was in 2017. I think he averaged about 18 fantasy points a game, which isn't terrible. Phillip Rivers averaged just over 20 this past season. And the thing is with Allen, he is that intermediary kind of over the middle receiver that Tyrod Taylor can get the ball to. So you don't have to throw deep to get it to him. He doesn't have to run, these go routes. I think he can kind of be a safety blanket for Tyrod Taylor. So I don't see Keenan Allen falling back in production too terribly much, especially compared to last season. After him, we have Adam Thielen, who it's, some of these guys, it's going to be a what have you done for me lately kind of situation where, you just didn't hear about him for much of the season last year. And so there's not a lot of thought going into the draft this year, like with Juju. But Adam Thielen, prior to last year when he had played in 10 games, he had 2 back-to-back 1,200-yard seasons. And Stephon Diggs is gone this year. Justin Jefferson is there as a rookie. And I think he has a profile kind of close to Thielen, but he doesn't have the rapport with his quarterback that Thielen does. So I don't see Thielen regressing at all. I see him improving this year, if anything. And so where you can get him right now, I think he presents quite a bit of value. After him, maybe the biggest value pick in this year's draft would be A.J. Green with a 28th receiver position. And the thing is, he's never scored below 12th overall for receivers prior to last season. So I like his chances. I think Joe Burrow might actually be a better quarterback than Andy Dalton. I guess the question is if he gets there in his first season, which he very well could. He looks ready for the NFL. So don't count A.J. Green out, and you can get him pretty early. After him, we have Jarvis Landry. He's the 30th wide receiver overall, and he performed 14th last season, over 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. Only 3 wide receivers have top 24 finishes over the last 5 years: Julio Jones, Mike Evans, and Jarvis Landry. He's not a sexy pick. He never is. It's because he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns and he doesn't make a lot of big bulk plays. But if nothing else, he's consistent. So he's a safe pick wherever you pick him up. After him, I have Marvin Jones, another name you don't hear about a lot. He only played 13 games last season, yet he fared better than Odell Beckham and Jamison Crowder with 131.9 total points last season. He was 17th in average points per game. And this is without Matt Stafford for a lot of the season. And this is only playing 13 games. So Marvin Jones represents a lot of value. Again, not a sexy pick, but a safe one. After him, we have Emmanuel Sanders, who's 43rd receiver overall, 869 yards and 5 touchdowns on the season last year with Jimmy Garoppolo and a 49ers offense that didn't really like to throw the ball that much. He goes to New Orleans where they do like to throw the ball quite a bit. And he's coming in as arguably their number 2 option, number 3 at worst. So I like Emmanuel Sanders this year. I like him the top 1,000 yards. So I think you're getting value where you can get him. And then last but not least, the guy I mentioned, Jamison Crowder, who's 44th receiver overall. He performed as number 33 last year in 2019 with the Sam Darnold, who was just developing. Yes, the Jets did add Denzel Mims, but they got rid of Robbie Anderson. So I expect Jamison Crowder to actually probably improve on his year this season with Sam Darnold under center. His legs are a little bit, hopefully he's not seeing any ghosts this season. I don't think he will be. I think he'll improve. And so those are my receiver value picks thus far when we're talking about the draft. I'll have the other positions coming up right after this. Again, this is the Trashman on behalf of RosterWatch.com. Give us a comment Give us a follow. We need them. We love them. We love you. And until next time, be ready.